All right, joined now by Sean Casey, former Yankees hitting coach and host of the Mayor's Office podcast. Sean, Alex Verdugo didn't have the best experience with the Red Sox. He made that perfectly clear when he got traded to the Yanks. He gets booed at Fenway Friday night, and then boom, 3 hits, including that homer, 4 RBIs. How good does something like that have to feel for Doogie?
Oh, man, you could tell by the way he was rounding the bases when he homered that it felt really good. And he was, screaming into the crowd, and the crowd's going crazy, and his teammates are going nuts. Hey, listen, at the end of the day, I mean, you have a lot of emotions. I know when I was in Cincinnati and came back with the Pirates, there's a lot of different feelings, going on there. I think the rivalry with the Red Sox and the Yankees obviously is a little different as far as the way, Verdugo left Boston not on great terms. And, for him to go back and drive in the runs that he drove in, that first day back, it was pretty special for him, and I know that it seemed like his teammates were pretty fired up about it too.
All right, you mentioned the rivalry between the Red Sox and the Yankees. You coached the Yankees, played for the Red Sox. Does it still have the luster that it used to have?
Well, I was fortunate enough. I played with the Red Sox in 2008 when it was still pretty, that was still pretty big during that time. It's still the Red Sox and the Yankees. I think it might be in a little period right now where, the Red Sox aren't as dominant as they were, years ago. So maybe the luster's not as high, but at the end of the day, it's still probably the biggest rivalry in sports, Yankees, Red Sox. So, you like to think when you're there in Fenway Park or at Yankee Stadium, when the Red Sox are in town or the Yankees are in town, it still has a ton of energy.
All right, let's turn our attention to Garrett Cole. He made another rehab start Friday night. 10 strikeouts and 4 2/3 at AAA. Aaron Boone said we could see him in the majors as soon as Wednesday. Have you seen what you need to see from Cole in the minors?
Yes. I mean, if I'm Boone, I'm like, all right, time to get him up here. I think the biggest thing about this whole thing is, when you have a guy like Garrett Cole, like I said before, he's so on top of his body, of how he feels, of how the ball's coming out of his hands, the results that he's getting, all that stuff. And so I think at the end of the day, this is going to be Cole's call. I really believe that. It's going to be, they're going to sit down with Garrett. They're all going to sit down together and figure it out. Hey, are you ready to go? What can you give us at the big league level? So I think at the end of the day, the decision will be, Garrett Cole's decision of I'm ready to go.
All right, another guy who's ready to go right now is Giancarlo Stanton. Coming into Sunday, he had 7 hits in 4 games. He's hit some mammoth homers as usual. We know he slimmed down, but what are you seeing that's different from him this season?
You know what, Joe? I think when you look at Big G, I just think more consistency. You're not seeing just the drop-off games where he's having 4 or 5 bad games in a row. He's really, if he goes 0 for 4, the next night he's getting a couple hits, or he's, getting a walk or in a hit, a 1 for 3. The consistency's back. It just seems like, he's not having a huge run where he's struggling. It just seems like he's been way more consistent. I love to see him, on the balls that he's hitting singles, those low line drives, rockets to right, things like that. I think that's what keeps you going as a good hitter in the game. So for me, it's just been consistency. Big G's been consistent and never had the 3, 4, 5 bad games in a row.
All right. Well, the Yankees, they've been consistent all season. So have the Orioles. They're close in the rearview mirror here. They start a series this week. O's took 3 of 4 in their first series. Does that add any extra importance this time around?
I think so, because anytime you go head-to-head with a team like the Orioles, I mean, these guys aren't going away, the Yankees aren't going away. So anytime you can make up games going head-to-head, that's huge. So I'm sure the Yankees are looking at this series thinking to themselves, okay, we'd like to win this series and gain an edge, continue to gain in the East and, make it up when it's head-to-head.
Sean, Luis Gil has thrown 80 innings already this season. Stellar, albeit, but he's never thrown more than 108 in a season, and that was in the minors. A lot of chatter that they could move him to the bullpen or go to a 6-man rotation. How would you handle the situation?
Wow, that's why Booney and Cash and Matty Blake and those guys get paid the big bucks, Joe. Because I wouldn't want to handle that one. You got a guy like Luis Gil who is absolutely rolling, maybe one of the best pitchers and maybe the best pitcher in the game right now. And you got to start putting the kid gloves on him a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. The 6-man rotation would make sense as far as like logging innings and stuff. But man, I tell you what. You'd have to figure out a way for Luis Gil to be ready to go down the stretch to make the postseason run, because to have this guy in your rotation, I mean, that's the X factor right there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm sure they'll figure out a great game plan like they always do. I mean, Matty Blake, I'm sure, is figuring out, looking at things and trying to figure out those innings. Then the analytics guys are doing that stuff too, and the Yankees are some of the best. So we'll see. Interesting thing, but you don't want to lose him down the stretch in that postseason run.
We talked about it a couple weeks ago, all the injuries we're seeing around Major League Baseball with pitchers, but he is a young guy. How did you do this in your day? Was this even a concern when young guys were coming up and getting those big league innings?
I mean, yeah, I'd say, you're always evaluating those arms because you want to keep them healthy. But I still don't think they have the recipe, Joe. I don't think any team has the recipe on what's the innings, what's the pitch count, all that stuff. I think you just go by feel of how a guy feels and what he's done in the past, and how much mileage he has on the arm. Obviously Gil's coming back from the injury a little bit ago last year. So. It's a tough call. I don't know the answers, and if I did, I'd be calling Booney and telling him.
Fair enough. All right, you mentioned Matt Blake. Let's give him his due, because it's not just Gil. He brought Michael Tonkin's career off the mat here. Carlos Rodon, nice bounce back. How much credit does Blake deserve for all of the pitching moves this year?
He deserves a ton of credit. Being on that staff last year and working right next to Matty Blake. I mean, this guy is more prepared than anyone in the game. He's one of the first coaches there every day. The way he goes through, when you sit in the meetings on the bullpen guys and how he works with those guys in the pen and all the things that he does. I mean, Matt Blake deserves, just a ton of credit for, the game plan that they put together. How they go about it every night. Just everything that they do. Him and Mike Harkey are two of the best, and well deserving of how that staff's doing. They should take a ton of credit.
All right, Sean. I know you're big on the mental aspect of hitting, and you worked with Aaron last season. So, yeah. Is there something you see that Judgy might have learned that put him on this latest ridiculous run?
Well, I think the biggest thing in baseball is, whoever fails the best wins. I really believe that. It's such a game of failure, and that you have to look at failure's information, the win-or-learn mentality, and you got to keep coming. You got to keep fighting. You got to keep showing up. And Judgy's one of the most mentally strong guys I've ever been around. So when I knew he was struggling at the beginning, I knew he was figuring things out, and he was getting information. This is working. This isn't working. I'm swinging at that slider off the plate. I got to slow down a little bit. And Judgy's a guy that he puts so much work in that when, something clicks, it clicks. And I don't know exactly what it was, but at the end of the day, he knew he was about to get hot, and he knew he was about to find something that he wasn't doing that was going to get him going. And no one knew he would be this hot and be the greatest player on any universe. He's almost looks like Joey's playing in a different level right now. So, talk about failure's feedback. I mean, Judgy took whatever we were struggling with and figured it out.
It's like Neo finally recognizing the Matrix all around him. Sean Casey, thank you so much. Remember, you can check out the Mayor's Office 5 days a week on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Appreciate you, sir.
Thanks, Joe. See you, buddy.